Welcome back to the OU Sports Podcast from the OU Daily. I'm Colton Sully, joined by Lewis Razor, Jason Batacchio. Kaylee's back. We're back in person. None of that Zoom stuff. But anyway, let's talk some OU football. Jason and I covered the Tulsa game in Tulsa. OU, pretty handily beat Tulsa 66-17. Dylan Gabriel was phenomenal. The defense, 5 interceptions, played really well. Some things to talk about, especially with the offense and the running backs, and not really knowing that situation, what it's going to be consistently down the line. Jeff Levy talked this week, had some big receivers make some big plays. Nick Anderson scored 3 touchdowns. We saw a lot of contributors as well. That's going to happen in a 66-17 game, guys. But before we let's just talk about our top line thoughts from Tulsa. Obviously, Lewis watched the game, but Jason, why don't you start? We were in the building there at H.A. Chapman Stadium. What did you look back on and think that OU could take away some positives from the game?
Dylan Gabriel. I think that's like the biggest positive for OU right now. I mean, if your quarterback's good, team probably is going to be good. So, 5 touchdowns, 400 yards, a pick. But, we talked after the game. It looked like a pass interference, and he was slammed on the throw. I think he's the most efficient quarterback in all of college football right now, if that stat's correct.
Well, I got the numbers here. He threw for 421 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, 400 yards, not 500.
He leads the nation in completion percentage. He's second in pass efficiency rating and points responsible for game. He's tied for 4th in passing touchdowns. He's only behind Sam Hartman, Michael Penix, and Caleb Williams.
Nice.
Obviously took home Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. So, Dylan Gabriel shined. Anything else you got on Dylan?
No, looked efficient, made all the right throws. There's a few passes that were behind, but that's run part of the course, for every quarterback. So, yeah, really good stuff from him this weekend. Really intriguing if you're OU.
And just one more thing I'll add to that. Dylan, through 3 games in 2022, had a 66.6 completion percentage, 759 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 0 picks. Through 3 games this year, and he has 82.5%. He's completing 82.5% of his passes with 905 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only 1 pick. And like Jason said, on that 1 pick, he got slammed, number 1, and number 2 looked like probably should have been pass interference. But Lewis, what did you see from back here?
Man, I think the thing that jumps out, and this is really all 3 weeks, is I have no idea what to think about this receiving core. They come out week 1 against Arkansas State. You have a bunch of different guys contributing. Jaquez Petaway, he looked like he was going to be a stud, and then he doesn't play at all week 2 practically. And then week 2, it looks like it's Andrell Anthony, and everybody else is kind of lagging behind. Week 3, they pick it up again. So I think that's like the biggest thing to watch from this offense. Because if you can really get guys going like they got against Tulsa, I think 11 different guys caught a pass. Mm-hmm. That's huge for Dylan Gabriel, for the offense. And then I think defensively, the linebacking core, it honestly looks second to none, especially Stutzman in the Big 12. Yeah, Danny Stutzman is everywhere, especially the past 2 weeks. Jaron Canick's really coming along. The secondary looks improved. The defensive line is still I think it's still a question mark, and I think we're really going to find out what they're made of if the pass rush is a huge concern against Cincinnati.
Looked a little bit better against Tulsa.
It did. First half, they didn't really get much going, but I would say second half definitely improved. PJ got a sack. That was huge just to see that. It was an unblocked sack, but still just good to see from your 5-star.
Yeah, for sure. And I think on that as well, you mentioned – last week, I think we talked on the pod how Andrell Anthony was really cementing himself as the number 1 guy. Last 2 weeks, Jalil Farouk has played really lights well. Out, and he's moving up on that list as well and proving why he was, thought to be the number 1 guy coming into the season, guys. But let's just go back to, well, first of all, OU Tulsa was not the only game last Saturday. We saw a bunch of, as we go into Big 12 play here, as OU plays Cincinnati. Lewis will be going to Cincinnati for us, but guys, the Big 12 just continues to be horrible. Oklahoma State got destroyed by South Alabama. Cincinnati lost to Miami of Ohio. Lewis, you're from Ohio. Where is that?
It's about 50 minutes north of Cincinnati. It's in a small town called Oxford, Ohio.
Okay.
Wow. Nice college, not great football team.
Yeah, well, my little brother had never even heard of them before. Just teams, Big 12 teams losing to teams like that. I think Iowa State lost to Ohio.
This is classic, like mid 2010s Big 12 play, where it's kind of just Texas and Oklahoma, and everybody's lagging behind a little bit. And if you're the Big 12 and you're Brett Yormark, like that's tough.
I laughed so hard. I
it
saw
is
a
what it
graphic. I
is.
think it was Sunday when the AP poll dropped, and it was like the only two Big 12 teams ranked are OU and
Texas and
yeah.
OU. Yeah.
But pretty funny. But it just shows the craziness of the league that OU is about to start conference play in, and really anything can happen. I mean, I think a lot of people, and we'll see later on predictions, a lot of people are predicting OU Cincinnati to be a close game. Cincinnati lost to Miami of Ohio, and we don't even know where that is. So it's just the inconsistency of this league. Right now, what is it? Texas, OU, BYU, and Kansas. They're the only undefeateds left.
Sounds right.
K-State lost to Missouri, so
That's right.
But anyway, should be interesting. We'll get to predictions later on, guys. But back to Gabriel. I just wanted to throw this question out there, and I know that it's probably not going to last all season long, guys. But those stats I just rattled off. I mean, he's in the conversation with Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Sam Hartman. I mean, when do you throw him into the Heisman conversation? I mean, I know it's early. It's only through 3 weeks, but he's fourth, second, and first in like the main categories.
I mean, I think Dylan Gabriel is a good quarterback. I think he's probably better than a lot of people would give him credit for. But I don't really think this continues. I think we're going to see him struggle a little bit, especially with the question marks at receiver and even the offensive line. Like that's a unit that's been really, really critical of themselves.
Mhm.
That's had you had Savion Byrd got benched
gonna
week
get to
2.
that,
Yeah, now he's hurt. We don't really know the timetable for when he's going to be back.
Mhm.
You had Walter Rouse didn't play a great game last game, and in the third quarter, you had Bill Biedenbow chewing him out on the sideline.
Yeah.
So that's a unit that's been really critical of themselves. They know they got to step up, and if they don't come conference play, you're not going to see Dylan Gabriel put up these kind of numbers.
I would agree with that. I just think it would be I'm just confused of why his name's not being thrown out there through 3 weeks like all these other guys. But no, I completely agree. I think he only had, how many yards did he have against SMU? It was barely like
176
and
for
you can't do
4
that
touchdowns.
week to week if you're going to be in that conversation, Jason. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm sure you'll see with my predictions. I just think OU in general is just a really inconsistent football team, and kind of like Lewis said, I mean, I don't expect the production to move forward at this sort of level. Offensive line, like you said, has some questions. Wide receiver room has some questions, and it's kind of interesting to kind of tap into because I mean, Jeff Lebby mentioned this week that like this offense wants an identity of like a fast-paced sort of offense, but like I don't know if they have an identity yet. Like they haven't run the ball really well in consistent weeks. They haven't passed the ball well in consistent weeks, and like they haven't had consistent contributors week by week. So I think it's interesting to see is OU going to find like a solid identity that they stick by. So that's why I would say no. I just, like Lebby says, I mean, the game plan shifts every week. So 1 week, like, he might not pass at all. It might be just run the football and feed Javonte or Tawi or whoever else is moving. So, yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think Lebby mentioned physicality in that. He mentioned a lot of these keywords that kind of correlate to the offensive line, and that's been OU in the past. Like, really solid offensive line that kind of anchors the offense. I mean, we saw that under Mayfield, under Kyler, under Hurts, you name it. This year, I'm just not sure that they have it. I mean, from what we've seen, and like you said, I don't really think this offense has an identity yet either, other than being an up-tempo offense.
Yep.
You know, they're not gonna run it down your throats or anything. We saw against SMU, they're really inconsistent when it comes to stretching the field, especially in the pass game and getting explosive plays.
I think it's a bit unfair to say OU's a really inconsistent football team. I mean, I think they have one of the best point margins in Power 5 right now.
True.
They've played Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa. But I do 100% agree. I think this offense is still looking for some sort of identity. I mean, you don't have consistent performers. You don't have You started 2 running backs on the depth chart, and then none of them got a carry in week 3. It's just, I think you guys are on the right track there with like the identity thing, and I thought that was really interesting that Jeff said. But with that being said, guys, I kind of disagree about the inconsistency. I think this team has made a lot of improvements from last season. I mean, you look at the third down percentages, and that's something that they played bad teams last year too. I mean, UTEP Kent State, and that Nebraska team was horrible. I think that SMU team this year could maybe beat last year's Nebraska team. And the numbers are improving in some areas, but I mean, with that being said, I'm not ready to say that OU's like gonna win all their games or anything. But
I wouldn't really I don't mean to cut you off, but I wouldn't really say inconsistent is the right word. I would say more just unproven, because what we saw out of Tulsa and Arkansas State games, you're like, this is a team that's miles above where they were last year.
You got to keep in mind the competition.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think unproven's the right word. I think inconsistency. I think they've been.
I think the SMU game really proved that, because there were just so many glaring weaknesses. They didn't pressure the quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I think what was
defense overall was good, but they could not stretch the field in the pass game.
I think what's different from this year's team though than last year's team, and Dylan and Brent both said it after that game, is they would have lost that game a year ago, and I think that's true. I think they know how to win ball games now, and they're figuring it out on the fly. But unproven is correct, and we will see starting in conference play this weekend against Cincinnati, guys. But let's go back to the offensive line that Lewis was talking about. Really interesting. Obviously, Savion Byrd got hurt against Tulsa. The week before, he just flat out got benched for Troy Everett, the Appalachian State transfer. This week, Walter Rouse, you mentioned, was getting chewed out on the sideline, but it was really highly rated recruit Caden Green that replaced Savion and played pretty well on that offensive line. Guys, talking to coordinators and talking to players, including Caden Green, yesterday, what do you guys get the sense of where this unit's at right now? We kind of touched on it earlier, but
I think it's in a really weird spot. I definitely think that they've had flashes of being a great offensive line, but they're shuffling so many players around right now. And it kind of goes back to that identity thing. What is their strong suit, And I feel like OU's still trying to figure that out. I think that they have an idea, but I don't know if they've found the right pieces. And I mean, they did this last season. Who they moved? I'm trying to remember who it was, but they moved somebody to right tackle.
Well, they literally wasn't it? I read in your story. They just told Caden Green last week he was moving to guard.
Something like that.
They told him last Monday. He went into a meeting with Bill Bedenbaugh. Had no idea what it was about, and they basically just said, "Yeah, you're moving to guard."
Left guard. Yeah.
I mean, he looked good.
He did.
I mean, that's the 4-star in him.
Yeah.
He looked good.
I mean, I think that's just what this staff does. I mean, Peyton Bowen has come in and played 10 different positions, and talking to him last night, he said that was not at all a part of his recruiting process. He came in thinking he was going to be a strong safety, and that's it. So I think that's just, and I credit to the staff for playing guys at different positions. Peyton Bowen has the talent to play Cheetah. Let's throw him in Cheetah instead of throwing in the third or fourth stringer. I kind of like that with the staff.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that they're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I mean, that's part of the course for this season. So
I think it's also interesting with Caden. They did the same thing with Savion.
Yeah.
He was predominantly an offensive tackle in high school.
Yeah, that's who I was talking
about. They moved him around to guard. But I mean, like I said, that's been kind of the identity of this offense. You've always had that strong offensive line, even in the bad years, even in the 6 and 7 year last year, you had Anton Harrison, Wanya Morris, so you've always had that unit to fall back on, and this year you kind of don't. It's almost a weakness, it feels like. And we're gonna learn more, especially this week. Dante Corleone, Jawan Briggs,
no joke.
Dude, they are coming. They've got 10 sacks. That's double what OU has. Yeah. If OU doesn't step it up in the offensive line department, Dylan Gabriel's gonna get hit. They're pushing under 20 points.
I think this is a week that Dylan gets the ball out quick and they pass a lot, just because I mean they don't, like we've talked about all pod, they don't have a consistent identity with the running game. I think Dylan's gonna. I thought my audio messed up for a second, but we're good. I think Dylan's gonna pass the ball a lot, and this could be another game, in my opinion, where he puts up some pretty good numbers. But like you said, that he's gonna have to get that ball out fast. The defensive line over there is crazy good. Yeah. So guys, talking to defensive coordinator Ted Roof and head coach Brent Venables all off season and preseason, their number one focus was third down defense. That was no secret that was a big weakness for them last season. And guys, I think that's kind of what we were talking about the SMU game. I think that's the difference with this team is they're figuring that little stuff out and they're winning games because of it.
Yep.
Obviously it's early, but they're 21st in the country in third down conversion percentage, and they were nowhere near that last season. So that's just it's through 3 games against bad teams last year. So I think that just proves that this team is taking steps in the right direction. I mean, you got a lot of guys that are in their second year under Brent Venables' system. But what are your guys' initial thoughts so far on third down? It seems to me like they've been better.
Yeah, on both defense and offense. I mean,
Mhm.
offensively, I think I put a stat. They're like doubling their conversion percentage from last year, which is really interesting. And on defense, I haven't looked at the metrics for that.
It's about the same, yeah.
It's about the same. I mean, that's massive improvement through 3 games. I mean, it's Tulsa, Arkansas
Well, like
State.
no, like last year through 3 games, it was half of what it is now.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
they're definitely improving on the little things for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Third down and I think fourth quarter. They've been dominant in the fourth quarter. And like, yeah, Arkansas State, Tulsa, those
But
were
the
not
SMU game
competitive
to me
games.
was a big.
That's what I was about
positive
to say.
in the fourth
quarter.
SMU was huge. They had that drive which carried over from the end of the third to the fourth, where they allowed a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and that was ugly. Like they looked like last year's team. 3 penalties. I think they gave up like a third down conversion and a fourth down conversion maybe. So that was ugly. But aside from that, yeah, this defense in particular has looked a lot better third down and fourth quarter.
And I don't really care who you are in 2023, giving up only 11 points, especially to a Rhett Lashley called offense. Like that's a pretty good stat to have if you're OU. But anyway, we're gonna talk about some players that have stuck out against Tulsa and just talking to coaches and players this week. Lewis, who you got?
Well, I had Caden Green, but we kind of already went over him. I would just say it's interesting to see, like, this is his second week learning guard. He came along. I feel like from what I saw, he played really, really well against Tulsa, took a little over 30 snaps, I think. And I think if you have that versatility on the offensive line where he can play now almost every spot, that's huge, because you never know with injuries or with just like the inconsistency that we've seen from that unit so far.
Caden Green, that's a good pick. I'm going to go with the guy we talked to yesterday who's a little bit under the radar throughout his whole career, but that's Isaiah Coe. Something really stuck out to me last spring, and I've been wanting to talk to him about it further and do a story on him, but which I ended up getting to do last night. But he literally looked me in the face in March and told me, Brent Venables has changed my life. And he went in depth with me about how he was 50-50 about going to the draft or not, and decided to stay. And you can really see that. I mean, I've been around Coe last couple of years, and first he was a very quiet, shy, kind of standoffish guy, and now you just see this energy, this burst of energy ever since Brent got here. And even on the field, I think it was maybe against Tulsa or SMU where he was in on a half a sack, or he was almost in on a sack, and just the celebrations and pumping the team up, and that's something he talked about last night. He's going to be a captain against Cincinnati, so that's a player I'm really. He's also doubled his stat line from last year through 3 games, so that's one player that I'm really looking to do big things in conference play. I had his stats here somewhere, but Lewis, you also talked to Isaiah with me last night. What have you been impressed with?
I would just say the leadership aspect of it, the off-field stuff. I noticed Brent Venables, OU posted on their Twitter, or X, sorry. They posted a video of like Brent Venables, his pregame speech out on the field. Isaiah Coe was right there, like nodding along, like, I'm with you, coach, I'm with you. He was the one who also like broke the team out. I thought that was just interesting, so his leadership.
In 2021, under Riley and Grinch, he had 9 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and a sack. Last year, under Brent, he doubled all of those. He had 20 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. And we've seen him be all over the field this year so far. So I'm going to go with Coe.
Yeah. I guess the guy I did the story on last night, Kendall Dolby. I mean, JUCO guy from NEO, I think.
NEO.
Yeah, NEO. Sorry, got the name wrong. Yeah, he just looks super solid in coverage, really flush.
Didn't he go to NEO?
Yeah, it was Northeastern Oklahoma A&M.
Works for me.
Yeah, works for me too.
Yeah. Like Ted Roof kind of mentioned, he's just a guy that really flashes on tape, super athletic. From what the coaches have said, he just works really hard. And kind of a thing that Brent went back to today, a quote that I had in my story, it's just like, there's a bunch of those guys that aren't going to be starting on this roster, but they're maximizing every opportunity that they get when they're on the field. And I think Kendall Dolby is one of those guys. I mean, he didn't play every single snap. He's not a starter. He's not, Gentry or Woody who's starting that right or left side. But when he did come in, he made a play, got an interception, and now he has a chance to play in front of his home crowd. So just one of those there's a lot of JUCO guys on this team that have been really successful. Even
that's
Talby.
a credit to the staff.
Yeah,
Brent,
for sure.
Brent and these guys, even in high school recruiting,
Yeah.
they go out and find these 3 stars that nobody's really ever heard of. So that's just a testament to the staff, I think. But guys, you guys were at Coach Venables' weekly press conference today. I wasn't able to attend, but you guys go through your top line thoughts from Brent today.
Yeah, I think the buzzword for me, and again I mentioned it in my story, was accountability. And I think that sort of verbiage, I guess, if that's the right word, just kind of points to Brent knows that this team is in the same situation it was last year. You face 3 basically Power 5 opponents outside of Nebraska. That was a Power 5 opponent last year, but he knows that this team needs to have a sense of urgency. They can't exhale being 3-0, and I think with the term accountability, I think he's been that's his new buzzword at the time being. He mentioned competitive depth a little bit, but I think now that's his term, he's going to probably be using that for the next 2-3 weeks. He's going to be holding these players accountable. He's going to be holding his staff accountable in everything that they do, because they don't want that 6-7 fate again. So just hearing that and hearing it kind of leak into other answers that were I know he mentioned Dylan's relationship with Jackson, and we hear a lot about Dylan sort of rubbing off on Jackson, but Jackson rubbing off on Dylan, making him more competitive, making him a better player, because Jackson's talented within his own, and that's Brent's words. So that was kind of my main takeaway from it.
Yeah, Jason just gave pretty much a rundown and completely stole my answer, so there's really no point of me even talking about, but I would just run down. I thought Cliff Brunt from the Associated Press asked kind of the question of the day. He said, we always hear about the veteran and how he's mentoring the rookie quarterback, and we're hearing the same about Gabriel Arnold, but, does anybody think flip-flop? Jackson Arnold is Jackson Arnold pushing Dylan Gabriel to be better was basically the question, and Brent was like, yeah, I would hope so. Competition makes people better, and I think that's a big difference, I think, from Dylan Gabriel this year to last year. Last year you have Davis Bevel and General Booty behind you.
Yeah.
It's just not the same as 5-star Jackson Arnold, not to mention all the fans want to see him. Everybody in Norman wants to see this guy on the field ASAP. Dylan Gabriel knows he doesn't know that somebody's gunning for a spot, but he knows that there are options if he doesn't play to the standard.
No doubt.
That is accountability within itself. So,
and I just wanted to add, we saw accountability on firsthand against Tulsa. OU's up 66-17, and Brent Venables is over here yelling in Peyton Bowen's face, who's been nothing but spectacular. And
the 5-star who's played 4 different positions at this point has done nothing but great things, and Brent is over there fourth quarter 66-17.
And I think that says a lot about
into
Brent and how much he wants players to grow, especially young players like Peyton that don't have it all figured out, but he knows and he sees the talent, and he sees that the sky's the limit for that kid. But injuries. Do we want to update on what Brent said about injuries today?
I think it was. I'm trying to remember who it was off the top of my head.
No update on Harrington, right?
Yeah, I know the major things that I noticed was Phil Picciotto.
Jaden Rowe and
Rowe
season-ending injuries.
Season-ending. Justin Harrington. They're surveying long-term options. Savion,
which doesn't sound good to me.
No, it doesn't. I think it's probably something.
He said they were basically waiting on Harrington, and literally everybody else. He just said, hopeful they'll play.
Dason McCullough is active.
Dason's active.
That's the only exception.
Savion would be the big one out of that group. That's he says he's hopeful. So that'll be interesting to see, but can't think of anybody else that comes to mind.
Awesome, guys. Well, I know you guys have to get to availability here pretty soon. Let's do just a quick recruiting update. Obviously, Danny Okoye, he's not a 5-star, right? He's a high 4-star. I think he's on the edge there, but a top 100, top 50 guy nonetheless. Defensive lineman commits. I think when this releases today, it would be today, which is tomorrow. But when this releases, it would be today. So, guys, I think his top 3 was at Tennessee, pull up his top 3 here. Or do you guys know it? Danny Coyer.
I have no clue.
OU's in it. That's all.
OU is in it. I think it's LSU, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. Is that correct?
Sounds right, Mr. Recruiting.
Oh, it's Texas, Tennessee, Oklahoma. So I know he's been a little back and forth between OU and Texas guys, but how do we see this one going?
I think he commits to OU. I mean, this is one of those, like, in-state, Brent saying we got to work inside out type deal. So I think that he probably commits OU.
And, I mean, I think he's from Tulsa, right? And
Yeah.
he's just in Tulsa, so.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. I don't have any, inside info on him, but that would be my guess.
Lewis, I thought you were the recruiting guy, man. All right.
Got the wrong guy.
Well, we'll see what Danny Okoye does. Stay tuned to OUDA.com to see his commitment live at Bixby on Wednesday. But I guess it's predictions time. Jason, are you going to predict a safety again this week?
No, I'm actually going with a normal prediction, kind of. I think OU wins 17-14. I think it's going to be a weirdly close game. OU probably should, win by 10-plus points, but, I don't know. This is just one of those games where I see, Cincinnati's, they're running off adrenaline. It's their first game of conference play. It's OU, they're going to come out for that game prepared. And like Brent said, I mean, even though they're coming from a group of 5, I mean, this is a team that has had a winning culture the past 3-4 years. I mean, they made the playoff, the first group of 5 team to make the playoffs. So I don't think that they're any joke. And OU's had problems with mobile quarterbacks in the past, and Emory Jones is the epitome of mobile quarterbacks. So, yeah, 17-14 OU.
I've been wanting to bring up, obviously, everybody talks about the Miami loss that Cincinnati suffered. And that's kind of a game that Cincinnati always just kind of plays down. I mean, it's a big rivalry game within Ohio. So, I mean, I didn't take away too much that Cincinnati was a bad team from that. What I took away is Cincinnati doesn't lose at Nippert Stadium much at all. Cincinnati has lost, I think, twice in the last 5 years at home. Even last year when they went 9-4, only loss at home was to Tulane, who went on a couple weeks later to beat USC. They won the American. Cincinnati's going to be gunning for this game. This is a team who wanted respect from 2018 to 2021, and they couldn't get it because they were not a Power 5 school. Yep. Now they're here. Now they're ready to show their place. They don't have Luke Fickell anymore, which is a huge loss. But I think Cincinnati's ready for this game. That being said, I do think Oklahoma's just the better team. Don't be surprised if OU goes down early. I mean, that's going to be a heck of an atmosphere there since he doesn't play bad at Nippert Stadium much. But I got OU pulling this out 27-18. Would not be surprised if it is closer than that.
Interesting. I guess I'm the lone wolf again. I'm gonna go OU 42, Cincinnati 17. I don't see this. I think OU's on a roll, to be honest with you guys. I mean, scoring 73 and then 66 points against anybody is pretty impressive. And then what I saw them do in the fourth quarter against SMU, I think it could be like Lewis said, one of those games where OU has to win it in the fourth quarter. I really could see that, and it's on the road. Cincinnati's going to be amped, like Jason says, it's their first ever Big 12 game. But just from what I've seen from Cincinnati and what I've seen from OU, I'm just going to go with my gut here, and I think Cincinnati does score 17 points. I think their Emory Jones is too talented not to cause some troubles in that OU secondary that we saw some pretty bad breakdowns against Tulsa. But I do think Dylan Gabriel is clicking. I think Jeff Lebby in this offense is inching closer to finding that identity. So, and I've said several times on this podcast, I have nothing against Cincinnati. I was talking to one of my buddies the other day. He's like, "Why do you always trash on Cincinnati on the pod?" I'm like, I really don't. I love Joe Burrow. Joey Votto's cool. Love Ellie De La Cruz, but I just don't think Scott Satterfield and this team, I just don't think they're the same Luke Fickell teams of the past, and I think OU wins this one pretty easily. I mean, 11 a.m. kick. They're not waiting around all day. It's not a night game at whatever stadium, but I think I'm not. I don't have anything against Cincinnati, I promise. But
whatever stadium.
I know the Victory Bell is a big rivalry, Miami and Cincinnati, but I'm
I
gonna
didn't
go.
even know it was called that. You know the Victory Bell, but not Nippert Stadium.
Colton's secretly a Cincinnati guy.
I
Colton
think,
is a Miami Redhawks fan.
Yeah.
I think OU takes it 42-17. I think Dylan Gabriel is just too good right now, guys.
We'll see.
But anyway, I don't think we have anything else. Got to get to availability. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure to read our stuff on oudaily.com. Our guy Lewis will be in Cincinnati. I think he's going to bring us back some Skyline chili. So
I'm expecting a gallon.
If I don't eat it on the plane ride home.
yeah. So
You're gonna eat a gallon of chili on the way home.
You obviously haven't seen me eat Skyline before.
All right,
We'll
sounds like a
see.
flight risk.
but we'll see. But thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next week. Glad Kaylee's back. Appreciate everything. But
Yay.
we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.